Mr. Bloise. Did you receive any of the emails from L&I when they were sending out to interpreters about the implementation of the scheduling program?
I did receive several emails, yes, talking about they were reviewing options. So the emails that I received range from 2018 to pretty much right before the implementation. And those emails that I received...
Thank you. That was my question. You did get the emails, correct?
I got the emails that they were reviewing options, yes.
Okay. And did you attend or view any of the L&I webinars on the scheduling program?
Yes, I did.
And were some of those in September of 2020?
No, I attended one or two, I believe, training seminars that L&I offered jointly with the interpretingWorks. interpretingWorks' owner, Marisa Giglio, to the purposes were for training interpreters that wanted to be part of the scheduling system, that wanted to sign up.
So my question was, if you didn't attend the ones in September of 2020, did you attend any meetings or any discussions with L&I in either 2019 or 2020?
I don't recall the exact dates, but I did attend one meeting with Susan Campbell when they were getting input from interpreters and some other stakeholders to review the options and then make a decision of what they wanted to implement.
Do you recall about when that was?
How long?
When? Yes, approximately when?
I believe it was 2018, I believe. It's kind of fuzzy right now, but yes, I think it was 2018 or 19. I think it was 2018.
Did you participate in any of the surveys that L&I did with of interpreters with regard to implementation of a scheduling program or system?
I believe I participated in one survey, cannot recall the exact date or time, but offered my suggestions as to why we needed to remain independent and bill directly to L&I as independent interpreters.
Do you remember about when that was?
That one escapes my mind because they offered a couple of surveys. Sorry.
Do you even know what year? Was it in 2020?
Not in 2020, definitely.
Before or after that?
Probably before. Then again, I don't have the exact date of the survey. I wasn't planning to talk about that survey here, so I don't have. I mean, I could check if you guys want to, but I don't remember.
Mr. Snyder, can we bring up Washington Interpreters Exhibit number 26? And can we look at, or trying to figure out where I was on this. Oh, this email talks about L&I was setting up a steering committee. Is that correct? Is that your understanding of this email?
So what I understand from this email is that it contains a copy of the bill, SB 6245, and the most recent notes from the steering committee. Most recent notes.
Okay. I mean, were you aware that L&I set up a steering committee on the issue of the scheduling implementation?
I was aware because I received many public disclosure records.
And you were also aware, were you not, from the exhibits that you gave us earlier, that L&I was holding stakeholder meetings around the state with interpreters to get input on the scheduling system? Isn't that true?
I believe, yes, I was aware, and I believe they were talking about getting input to review their options from the bill for implementation.
Mr. Gunlove, can I pull this?
I'm sorry?
Can I take the exhibit off the screen?
Yes, thank you. I believe that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf.
Thank you. Mr. Bloise, were you an independent interpreter before the system change, or an agency, or how did you handle your interpreting services?
I have never owned an agency. I never applied or have an established group provider number with L&I, so I was never an agency. I was an independent interpreter with my own provider number since 2009, and I always billed L&I directly through the provider billing software and the direct entry feature. Now I was getting paid every 2 weeks. Yes.
Okay. And you were aware of the proposed legislation in 2018 regarding possible changes to the way L&I scheduled and paid interpreters. Is that correct?
I became aware of LNI's plans because I received an email from when I was a member of the Washington Federation of State Employees through the local union Interpreters United, and the email was asking me to go and testify in favor of it. When I read the peace legislation, the bill, I was having reservations with the changes proposed, so I first testified against it, and then I continue to be in the public hearings, yes.
Okay, so you went and testified at some of these hearings, is that right, before the legislature?
Yes, I did. There's record of it on TV Washington.
Okay, and you were opposed to what was being proposed, is that accurate?
I wasn't completely opposed to the implementation on itself of the scheduling system, provided that independent interpreters would be able to bill an I directly the same way we were doing it before the implementation. I wasn't opposed to all the changes, but I was opposed to the fact that potentially, as the bill was written in the beginning, we would not be able to contract directly the same way and have the same relationships that we have established with medical providers and networkings in the community and other interpreters.
Okay, and would that have been testifying in regards to Bill 2691?
I didn't testify about the bill, no.
You did not, okay.
No.
So I take it from your testimony and some of the exhibits that you were signed up through LNI on their listserv to receive those emails with updates, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And those came pretty much throughout the years in which this was being developed, would you agree?
Yes, since 2018, I believe, yes.
Okay. And they started out with, as you pointed out in some of your exhibits, talking about the different options that were available, and which included an option to have both individual LAPs and the scheduling system.
Yes, the options that, from what I understand in reading the legislative text, the bill was requiring LNI to purchase interpreting language services directly from language access providers or from delivery and coordinating entities, or from both. So it gave LNI three options, and one of those options was to actually remain with the status quo. And they were to implement this no later than September 1st, 2020. They failed to do so. As a member of Washington Interpreters, our whole board went and met with legislators in both January and February 2020, proposing an amendment to have LNI delay this implementation, and that amendment resulted from Senator Curtis King from Yakima.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Just you've gone beyond my question, so I just wanted to interrupt you.
Okay.
And ask you, when you say the status quo, the legislature required some changes, isn't that right?
The legislature required that LNI, implement the changes and gave three options. So what I'm saying is, one of those options, the first option was always to contract directly from language access providers or through delivery and coordinating entities, and that's talking about a scheduling system. And then third option was, or both, which is something that I have personally advocated since before joining WFSE's organizing effort or Washington Interpreters, so we could have a dual system where you have your scheduling system for those that like it and prefer to receive appointments that way. And you also have independent interpreters preserve the ability to bill LNI directly and have their appointments, receive appointments from some other sources like medical providers and so on. Is that clear?
But what wouldn't be allowed under the statute is the use of agencies, language access agencies, isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct, I believe, yeah.
Okay. Now, so LNI is sending out these informational notices and other information through its listservs and other communication avenues throughout the period of time from this 2018 when the statute goes into effect, basically all the way through to implementation. Would you agree?
That they were sending all this information about the changes that we're trying to make?
Yes.
Yes, they were sending information about the possible changes and reviewing the options they would have to make a decision on what option to implement.
Yes, okay. And in your own exhibits, there are a number of exhibits that deal with steering committee agendas and minutes. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And through that process, through your exhibits, it shows that there were conversations being had and eventually a decision was made through that process to end up where it is today. Would you agree?
Yeah, somewhere along the line, LNI decided they would implement the scheduling system. And what I do recall from these emails is that they failed to implement it on September 1st, 2020. And so they kept on giving possible, range of dates, and nothing was concrete until we had a notice on April 12th, 30 days before the implementation that took place on, we had a notice on March 12th, 30 days before the implementation, which took place on April 12th.
But what didn't change from September 2020 to April was what the program was going to be. In other words, the actual date in which it went live may have changed, but the decision about what it was going to look like didn't change from that period of time. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct, because even though LNI had submitted emails talking about limiting independent interpreters and whatnot, they still were not sure as to when independent interpreters would be allowed to bill directly after the implementation, the period of time that would be going on, how long they would allow agencies, language agencies to still operate to ensure continuity of care. Those decisions were not determined and were not announced until pretty much 30 days before the implementation or even after. Because I believe I attended training sessions jointly training sessions with LNI and interpretingWorks. And, they talked about, Megan Lemon talked about allowing both agencies and independent interpreters to still operate until July 1st. They kept on changing those dates, and there is a lot of evidence towards that in the exhibits that I presented.
But what didn't change was the fact that at some point, individual interpreters were not going to be allowed to bill directly, correct?
I don't believe that, because we are still allowed to bill directly, and that was always... Can I finish?
But those are for a very limited number of appointments, right? The emergencies.
Yes, but your question asked what didn't change was that we were not allowed to bill directly, and it was very clear from you guys from the beginning that we were going to be allowed to bill directly, but for a limited amount of appointments. So, yeah, your question is not completely there.
Could I have just 1 second to confer with Katie, please? Thank you.
I request the same to confer with Anastasia. Thanks. Is that okay? Is that okay, Mr.
Yes.
Snyder?
Okay. Please.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions for your witness, Mr. Lepe?
No, and thank you for bringing me back in.
All right. There are no redirect. You are excused, Mr. Bloise.
Thanks.
All right. And I'm assuming, Mr. Bloise, you are taking back over the reins as the representative for Washington Interpreters. So with that, do you have any further witnesses to call?
No, I don't.
All right. Thank you. So you rest your case in chief.
I rest my case, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go off the record.